From New York City, I'm Steven Shalowitz, and this is the One Way Ticket Show.
Can we talk about just how pervasive harassment is in the workplace and sexual harassment? I heard you've told a story several times. I want you to share it here about how you were on CNN. I'm prompting you here and how you came home and what your son asked you about, because I think that is really, really telling.
Look, when you make a decision like I did, speaking of courage, it's not something I decided like the night before.
Yeah.
This was years in the making because I had to have my ducks in a row. And so I really had to build up the courage. And one of the most important pieces of that puzzle was getting my familial support. I'm blessed to still have my parents in my life, and getting their blessing on this was really, really important. That finally happened. My husband, obviously, and then my two children who were middle schoolers at the time, a boy and a girl. And gosh, I was so worried about what would happen to them when they went back to school in the fall. And I did not want them to be made fun of. Middle school is hard enough. And I really underestimated how this would change the lives of my children in a positive way. Could have never expected that. But both of my children found courage and bravery in their lives a short time after, as well as advocacy. So my daughter came home from school that fall, and she said, Mom, the first thing was that the teacher had called her up to the front of the room and wanted her to share what happened to her mom over the summer.
Oh, gosh.
And just as I was ready to pick up the phone and call the school, she goes, and Mom, I was so proud to tell everyone that you were my mom. And a couple of weeks later, she found the courage to tell some girls who had been making life hard for her. She told them off. And then she came home and she said, Mom, I did it because I saw you do it. And I thought, oh my God, like a light went off in my head, like maybe this is all going to be okay. And then you're alluding to when I was on this CNN town hall talking about these issues, and I came home and my son, who was 12 at the time, was waiting for me in the kitchen. He said, Mom, is it true what that other woman said on the show, that every 73 seconds in America, a woman is assaulted or harassed? And I said, I'm so sorry to tell you, honey, that is true. And he said, Mom, as a young man, I want to help fix that. And that is when the skies opened. And I was like, hallelujah, because I realized that what I did had changed my children's lives. And even if that's all that ever happened, it was absolutely amazing. But I know that what I've done is so much more far-reaching. And I often say that through my advocacy work at Lift Our Voices and changing laws and educating people about these silencing mechanisms, that I am helping millions of people that I will never meet. So my children obviously are so close to me, and I've seen the impact, but I'm also impacting millions of other people who may never know who I am or for sure meet me. But boy, does that give me a tremendous amount of gratitude in my heart.
July 6, 2016 was the day that you filed the sexual harassment lawsuit against Roger Ailes. So it's going to be 7 years in just a couple of weeks as we record this. I'm wondering what goes through your mind then also on that day. Do you mark the day in any particular way? Because that day had such a profound impact on the trajectory of your life, yet it also had an enormous impact, as we've seen through the work that you're doing right now, on thousands and thousands of other lives.
Yeah, it's always an incredibly emotional day for me. In fact, I'm getting teary now because it just takes me back to how difficult it was to do what I did. And there's this photo that I found of I don't know if it's a man or a woman, but it's just a photo of their feet and their tennis shoes, and they're stepping off of the Empire State Building. And I'm not trying to suggest that people should do that, but I've posted it a couple times on the anniversary because that's how I felt. I was jumping off the cliff all by myself, and there was no safety net below. And then I figured out there actually was. And that was all these people who started reaching out to me. And so it's really emotional day for me. And sometimes I cry for the whole day, just thinking about all the people out there who had horrible things happen to them as well and who have never been vindicated. Sometimes it's just a sea of emotions because doing something like what I did was just so scary and so over the top. And then sometimes it's just tears of joy because we've come so far. And oftentimes, if I have the opportunity to be with my kids on that day, I just hug them extra tight because that's why I'm doing all this work. It's like for the next generation of my daughter and my son to not have to face this and the millions of other young people. So it's like a confluence of a ton of emotions on that day. I don't know what I'm going to post this year on July 6th, but I'll give it a lot of thought before, and it'll undoubtedly be a very emotional day.